Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. As I mentioned in my last video, I've seen a couple comedies over the last week, and I haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about them with you guys because we've been kind of busy. So I wanted to do that. We just talked about The Blackening, which is a horror comedy, and just a wonderful satire, both of, black people inside of horror movies and black culture in general. If you want to see my review to that, you can check out all my thoughts right there. But now we turn our attention to a more traditional, raunchy comedy. It's the easiest way to put that one, man. If you grew up, in the late 90s, early thousands, you're someone in your 30s like myself, this is a movie that when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh, we're going back to times that were fun. I haven't seen a lot of comedies out in the last couple years. It's not a genre that is really thriving a ton. And to be honest, I haven't seen one that just said, what's the most inappropriate idea we could come up with, and how can we make that funny? It's been a while since I got one of those movies, and I gotta tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Even though I was close to being out. They pulled me back in. At the end of the day, I was so satisfied with this very sweet movie. What am I talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in, spoiler-free, into No Hard Feelings. And like I said, the return of the classic raunchy comedies that I grew up with are at play here, but with a little bit of a different vibe and flavor. This is something that I think definitely can play in today's world. And if I'm honest, it's a movie that kind of addresses some of that, like the way we used to look and laugh at things versus how people look and laugh at things now. And that's something that I thought was very interesting as it was kind of fleshed out in the movie. And huge shout out from the get-go for this one has to start with your writers, who are John Phillips and our director, Gene Stupnitsky. And I think that this is a movie that walks a really tight rope. You're one joke too many this way or one joke too few that way where you could be falling off. And if you mishandle any of the things that they're doing, you might lose audiences. And that's the thing that I liked about this movie is that Stupnitsky and Phillips were willing to walk that line and say, you know what, we might lose some people, but if most of the audience can get all the way across and get to the landing, I think we're going to have a hit. And this movie, if you're unfamiliar, brings us Jennifer Lawrence's character, Maddie, who's on the brink of losing her home and finds an intriguing job listing from a pair of helicopter parents looking for someone to bring their introverted 19-year-old son out of his shell before college. And in the listing, they want to, in quotes, date him, which we all know means take his virginity. And they're looking for someone in their mid to early 20s, someone that would be close to Percy's age, but Jennifer Lawrence, she's in need of a car. She lives in Montauk, and it's summer season. She makes most of her living from Uber, and the beginning of the movie, her car is out of commission. So when she sees a car is on the line, she says, I could do this. How difficult could it be? And watching a 30-something have to seduce a 19-year-old is, like I was saying, one of those kind of classic, what's the most inappropriate kind of funny story we can come up with, and how do we make it funny? And that setup in and of itself, you could see, if you were a fan specifically of raunchy comedies, all the different types of places that they could go. And it's one that I think, for the most part, works more often than not. You have to like awkward humor. If awkward situations make you uncomfortable, this movie is going to make you uncomfortable a lot, because Percy is hardcore introverted. And he is very awkward, specifically when it comes to dating or being around a woman. And Jennifer Lawrence is really pushing this thing early in the movie because she has a goal. She just wants to get in and get out, all puns intended. And it's one of these things where it creates these unbelievable, super, intense, hysterical moments early on in the movie. But as the movie progresses, and this is where I said, Stupnitsky and Phillips are walking a tightrope that, you miss one thing and you might lose people. And toward the end of the second act, where both Maddie and Percy as characters were going, I was like, oh man, this movie might lose me. It started off real strong, but I don't know how you're going to kind of find a resolution that's going to work based on things that were happening toward the end of the second act. And fortunately, I stuck around because that's what I always do. And Stupnitsky and Phillips find a really, really genuinely sweet way to make all of this stuff work out, where you get to the end and you are completely satisfied for all the characters involved. I think when it comes to like looking at things this movie is juggling, I find myself in such an interesting position as a viewer because, you know, being somebody who was a bit more introverted and not really great with women when he was younger, I can identify with a lot of the things that are going on with Percy. And there is an emotional element to Percy's character, and one of the things that I think Stupnitsky and Phillips, like, they show you how they can thread the needle in this movie, because it's one of these things where when you start to learn about why Percy is the way he is outside of the helicoptering parent thing. Like, there's a moment in this movie that had tears. I know I cry in a lot of movies. I wasn't expected to cry in this one. But there's just a moment where, you know, Maddie asks Percy to do something. And Percy kind of shows off, you know, kind of like a little bit of a superpower, so to speak. And you sit there and you go, holy shit, man. That kid had that in him. And he's hidden that from the rest of the world because of the way people bullied him and attacked him. And the scenario that Stupnitsky and Phillips come up with is absurd. But what it ultimately means for Percy is something that I think really can connect on the emotional side. Like, there are some emotional beats in this movie because of what's going on with Percy and where they come from and how Maddie starts to learn more about him that really do connect. And it was something that I thought they did so well, like to be able to handle some of that emotional energy with the raunchy comedic energy that they had. Super small, needle to thread, but they nail it. And the other thing that I think they do so well is really capturing what people from my generation considered to be humor and how humor should function inside of a movie with how I think the current era and generation of kids consume humor and look at things and what's funny and what's not funny, and how PC culture can infiltrate some of these lands that make things, specifically being a comedian, sometimes hard. And there's a sequence where Lawrence is kind of moving through a party looking for Percy, where they are tackling that stuff head on. And I just sat there and I was like, I just had an out-of-body experience, man. It was like I was moving through a room dying with Jennifer Lawrence. Like, the things that she's doing, the way she's ribbing people that are just being stupid. Like, that's how I grew up. And then you see how everybody else reacts to that, and you're just like, oh, yeah, man. Like, they do handle some really interesting subject matter in here, and they balance it and juggle it really quite well. And at the end of the day, like I said, this thing is really funny. It pushes the boundaries, and, you know, it might not keep everybody, but if you can get all the way to the end, they stick the third act in a way, like I said, that makes this super, super satisfying. And Stupnitsky behind the camera, you know, I mean, this is a movie that is constantly engaging with its audience from a visual perspective. Whether you're getting a, spoilers, full nude Jennifer Lawrence fighting people. She has a full-on choreographed fight sequence that's phenomenal. And, like, kudos to her and to Stupnitsky and co. Like, it was a big swing. It connected. It's an absurd moment. But he handles those things really well. Like I said, moving through that party was such a wonderful moment. And like I said, the pacing, just the way the movie moves, you're never not engaging with it. And it was more, like I said, when I was starting to maybe fall a little bit out, it was more like where we're taking the characters more so than like me just not enjoying the movie, right? And I think everything here that you're watching is really easy to consume and move through. And the humor is just great. But at the end of the day, like I always say, you can have a great script, you can have a director who knows how to build a movie like this, but if you don't have the cast to deliver it, it's definitely not going to work. And Jennifer Lawrence could not be a more perfect actor to lead this movie. One, I haven't seen her on the big screen in so long, and good God, have I missed this Jennifer Lawrence. I feel like she had a weird stretch after Mother, and I think it was kind of smart for her to kind of back off a little bit and come back. And I'm telling you, she looks like someone who was so engaged and ready to be back on the big screen in a movie like this. And how she plays Maddie, I think, is perfect. Like I said, if you're someone who's in their 30s, you're going to relate to a lot of things going on in Maddie's life. Maybe not trying to have sex with a 19-year-old to get a car, but there are lots of things that are going on with Maddie that you can connect to, whether it's things with her family or things with her life. And Lawrence just has the acting chops to be laugh out loud hysterical. I mean, I've always thought that she is just a naturally funny, goofy person. And when she channels that energy in that direction, she is hysterical. But she's also got the gravitas to handle the emotional moments and the awkward things in this movie that, if you don't have someone like Jennifer Lawrence, maybe Maddie isn't as redeeming by the time you get to the end of the movie. And she does have to carry this thing, and she carries it like a true star should carry it. But the thing that I really love is that she's not just carrying the movie, she also provides a wonderful support to Andrew Barth Feldman, who has a great breakout performance in this movie. I mean, I never saw Percy coming a mile away, man. Like, when you saw the trailers, I was like, this kid is going to be able to do awkward kid stuff. Like, that stuff's going to work. But like I said, this movie's got a lot of emotional weight, specifically around things that have happened to Percy. And the way Feldman is able to carry that with him in every scene, but also juggle it with the humor, and watching Percy be this introverted, I don't really leave my room so much, to someone who grows out of that and can be someone that can have any kind of relationship with someone like Jennifer Lawrence. It's really, really just so sweet to watch. And he nails the things that should hit you in the chest and the things that should pull on your heartstrings. And like I said, at the end of the day, the way that they move these two characters through this movie, while there are moments where you're almost out on both of them at different times, you get to the end in a way that's extremely satisfying. And like I said, at its heart, at its core, it's just a sweet movie, and the relationship between Maddie and Percy has a lot of sweetness to it as it grows from what it initially starts out with. And that's something that I think maybe doesn't work as well as it ends up working in the movie if you don't have someone like Lawrence or Andrew Barth Feldman carrying this thing. And I really did love watching their chemistry, and like I said, how Lawrence really supports this fresh new face and helps them get a really stellar performance out of this movie. The rest of the cast, everybody that's here adds something to the humor realm. I think Matthew Broderick probably adds the most of that, along with Laura Benanti, who play Percy's helicopter parents. They're absolutely hysterical. Broderick is really someone who's kind of pushing for this, because losing his virginity right before college was something that helped him break out of his shell. So how they function, they're both kind of awkward. Like, it's so straight. Like, Matthew Broderick, as soon as you see Laird Becker, you're just like, this guy is weird. You see Allison Becker, you're like, that's kind of the hot mom, but she's also kind of a little aloof. And, like, just not all there, And I think Benanti and Broderick work so well in that really awkward parenting realm in this movie, and they bounce off each other quite well. How they interact with Lawrence and Feldman really works. And yeah, you don't really want to like these people at all, but they provide some legit humor, specifically Broderick, who I thought really popped as one of the supporting characters. Then you have Natalie Morales and Scott MacArthur, who play Maddie's two best friends. I like what they are asked to do and what their characters serve purpose-wise in the movie for Maddie. They're a wonderful support structure. They're a place where you can just be raw and honest, where, there's a movie where a lot of people are hiding things, and, Maddie is able to just be completely raw around Sarah and Jim, and their reactions to some of those things are absolutely hysterical. And again, when you get into the third act, they really contribute to the sweetness of this movie. And they're two people that, like, you're happy as someone who's rooting for Maddie that she has these people in their life. And how that whole story just kind of runs its course, I really, really enjoyed. And the only other kind of standout or shout out I would give in this one would be Hassan Minhaj. I think he is hysterical. He's a really good stand-up comedian. And I like any time he pops up. He hasn't had a ton to do in the movie realm, but he plays a real estate agent that grew up with Maddie, is trying to get her to sell the house, so he pops up a couple times throughout the movie. The one main time that we get with him, he's very funny, and it's one of those where it's like, I mentioned him because it's a super tiny role, but Minaj is someone I would love to see do more, because when you get him in these little tiny moments, you're like, man, I think he's got some talent, man. But at the end of the day, this is just a laugh-out-loud funny movie that's got a really genuinely warm heart to it, and just a sweet sincerity that I appreciated by the time I got to the end of the film. So let's get the C-Maniacs up. Like I said, I think Gene Stupnitsky, our director, but also one of our writers here, along with John Phillips, does a wonderful job in creating a classic, true to form. Like I said, if you're in your 30s, you know what the raunchy comedies were. It's something like The Girl Next Door. Perfect kind of example to what's going on here. And it's that type of, comedy that is just coursing through this whole thing. It deals with, high school, the end of, or, like the post-high school, like trying to find your footing after that stretch in your life. What it means when you're even further down the line, like in your 30s, and you're still living in the place that you grew up in. Like, the things that they juggle and tackle here, I think, work and apply really well to this story. And it's one that, it walks that tightrope, and it might be close to faltering, but when you have leads like Lawrence and Feldman to carry it, and having writers like Phillips and Stupnitsky to thread the needle at the end to make this thing land where it needs to, even if that target was so damn tiny, it does land, and you end up feeling really good by the end of the movie, man. Like, you walk away and you're like, that was a good time. I'm glad I saw that movie, and I need more movies like that. And the fact that a raunchy comedy could leave you with that kind of feeling, and the way that it addresses PC culture and humor in general, both from people of my generation and this current generation, from like viewpoints, it just does some really smart and clever things that I think work really well, and it does outrageous things like having Jennifer Lawrence be completely nude and fighting people. There's some great stuff in here. Not a perfect film, but I was so satisfied when I walked out. I'm going, not the funniest movie of the year, so it's not The Blackening, but I definitely liked it more than The Machine. I'm giving it a 3.5 out of 5 C-Maniacs. This thing, for the most part, is going to work more often than not, but it's going to put you in a lot of awkward positions, a lot of awkward spaces that aren't always going to feel great for every audience. And, at the end of the day, I think if you can get all the way to the end, you will be extremely satisfied with how they make all of it work by the end of the movie. But 3.5 out of 5 C-Maniacs for the C-Man. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to turn it over to you. What do you think of No Hard Feelings? Did you get out there this weekend and check the movie out? Did you think it worked as a comedy? Did it work as, I don't want to say like a romantic comedy, because like there's romance ain't necessarily what's going on, at least, well, I guess for half of the characters. Does it work as a romantic comedy for you? What did you think? Did you think the movie landed in a sweet place? That was like, the end of the day, like me and my friends, we came out of the movie, we were all like, that was a really sweet movie. Did you get those vibes? Did you like the heart of this thing? If you haven't seen it, have we enticed you? Was it already on your list? Is this something that you want to see in theaters? I think, like I said, I don't think this is something, I didn't say this, but I've said this with other movies. I don't think this is one that you have to see in theaters. However, if it's a hot day, if it's a rainy day, you're looking for something to just kind of chill and enjoy for, again, another movie that the comedy that's like right in the 90, 100-minute range, totally worth taking a look. If that's for you, I want to know it. Anything you got, good, bad, indifferent, on No Hard Feelings, down below in the comments section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions. I don't know what's coming up this week. I'm sure there's some movies to go see. I still got to catch Elemental. But we'll have more Secret Invasion review and reactions for that. You want to be here for any of those things, you just dig the vibe. You want to show a little love and support the old C-Man. Well, hey, come join C-Maniac Nation. It's super easy. Just got to jump over there, hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace! Oh, you guys are still here. You snuck up on me. You must be looking for more of this guy. Well, I got 2 video options for you, man. Right up here and right over here. And if you want all those C-Man goodies, well, hey, come join the squad right on over there, and I'll catch you on the next one.